Hello students, I am Dr. Shantanu Ganguly, Fellow and Area Convener, Knowledge Management Division of TERI. This is a course on strategic management in libraries, is a part of the management information system. Strategic management is an extremely important management area for any library and information centers to function in a more methodical and in a proper way. If your strategies are not aligned with the organization's objectives, directions, mandate, then in that case your strategic management of the libraries will not be successful, and you may have a very serious problem in a long-term basis. This module is going to highlight following things. You will understand the need for strategic planning in libraries, manage the strategic planning process in modern libraries, determine appropriate tools for strategic planning, identify levels and steps of strategic planning, know the factors which are responsible in the environment that influence the library planning, and suggest strategies for collection development, budget allocation, and develop marketing strategies too. If you look at the strategic management in libraries, a conceptual framework, strategic management term was first used in 1970s, and it meant that a staff of strategic planners tried to sell them to decision makers. In the 1990s, the view of strategic planning and strategic management is much different because they see change has taken place in the entire management scenario. Goodstein, Nolan, and Pfeiffer defined strategic planning says that it takes us away from the notion that strategic planning is a staff job and focuses more on a process that requires the senior leaders of an organization to set its strategic direction. Strategic management is a systems approach to identify and making the necessary changes and measuring the organization's performance as it moves towards its vision. It has been defined as management, a system that links strategic planning and decision making with the day-to-day business operation management. This particular definition was coined by Gluck, Kaufman, and Wallach in 1982. Now, there is a complete strategic management model I have described in the course module. If you look at this particular diagram, you will see there are a couple of stages which are involved in this model. The first one is pre-planning. When you do a pre-planning, means pre-planning the activities based on the organizational assessment. The next two is the strategic planning is your mission, the vision, and the guiding principles. All three of them formulates the strategic foundations of an organization. When you look at it, the vision specifically, you would be able to identify the gaps. So you have to do a gap analysis. And then comes your strategic goals, strategies, objectives, and develop a measurement plan. Now, once this step is taken care of, then you come to next thing is deployment, which is once again divided into two parts, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is to complete the plan, and phase 2 is to communicate the plan. Now, for which is most important, is resource allocation. Because without the resource allocation, you won't be able to manage the strategy, or you are not able to devise the strategy of your organization or your library information center too. And that can only be done when you do a proper organizational assessment. It is extremely important that when you implement the strategies, you have to develop an action plan. And these action plans, you have to track the status of these action plans, and you have also to communicate the progress. Now, once this in the model, it has been taken care of, that if you are able to allocate the resources, you have done a comfortable organizational assessment. The most important thing is measurement and evaluation of your strategy, because impact measurement is an extremely important as far as your strategies are concerned. For that, you need to collect data from both primary and secondary resources. Lot of data, even the minute details you have to collect, both tangible as well as intangible. Even some of the intangible data, you have to convert it into even tangible data. Analyze it, evaluate it, and then communicate the results. Now, when you communicate the results should be in alignment with your organizational effectiveness, organizational assessment. So this entire steps takes into account the strategic model of a successful organization. Strategic management deployment is the implementation of the strategic plan and measurement and evaluation of the results. Deployment involves completing the plan and communicating to all employees. Implementation involves resourcing the plan, putting it into action, managing those actions. Measurement and evaluation consists not only of tracking implementation actions, but more importantly, assessing how the organization is changing as a result of those actions, and using that information to update the plan. Strategic management is a continuous process rather than a one-time event. Thinking has to be more visionary. When an organization is practicing strategic management, thinking becomes more visionary, which is characterized by breakthrough, thinking about the future. Organizational boundaries are more flexible. A shift in the focus from the inputs that are used to run the business to the outputs and outcomes the organization desires to achieve. A focus on optimizing organizational performance and process quality as keys to delivering quality products and services. A move towards an organization culture that adapts easily to change. With practice, patience, dedication, and hard work, the organizational learning that takes place through the application of strategic movement or management will bring the organization closer to realizing its goal and the vision that has been defined. What are the strategies? The strategy management of an organization entails three going process: analysis, decisions, and actions. Analysis of strategic goals, vision, mission, and strategic objectives. Along with the analysis of the internal and external environment of the organization. Decisions address two basic questions in management point of view. What industries should we compete in? How should we compete in those industries? Actions that must be taken. This requires leaders to allocate the necessary resources and to design the organizations to bring in the intended strategies to actual reality. How are strategies developed? Strategy formulation is a combination of rational and scientific examination, intuitive best guesses also. Examining the organization's critical issues, determining how the organization's strengths and skills can be employed to address the critical issues. Analyzing opportunities and strengths and looking for ways to synthesize the two, exploring and choosing the best approaches for the organization. During this evaluation, as these key questions, does the strategy meet or address the critical issues? Is this aligned with our mission? Is this approach financially viable? We need to find out the answers for all these strategic questions. Essence of strategic management. Managers need to determine how a firm is to compete so that it can obtain advantages that are sustainable over a long period of time. That means on two fundamental questions. How should we compete in order to create competitive advantages in the marketplace? Managers must ask how to make such advantages sustainable instead of highly temporary in the marketplace. That is, how can we create competitive advantage in the marketplace that are not only unique and valuable but also difficult for competitors to copy or substitute. I have given a flowchart diagram from an initial agreement to a strategic planning and process reassessment, and how at different stages along with the organizational assessment, a framework of the organization in relation to the external and internal choices. One of the topmost management guru in the field of strategic management is Professor Michael Porter. Michael Porter argues that sustainable competitive advantage cannot be achieved through operational effectiveness alone. Most of the popular management innovations of the last 2 decades, as far as which is also relevant to the information service industry, like Library and Information Center, is total quality management, just in time, benchmarking, business process reengineering, and outsourcing. All are about operational effectiveness. There are several tools and techniques are available to measure all these strategic management components. What is strategic management in libraries? Formulation of the library's future mission in the light of changing external factors such as regulation, competition, technology, and the users. In some of the libraries, they have a very well-defined vision and mission. So if you are going to be tomorrow a budding librarian of any institution, the first and the foremost thing you have to do, you have to come up with a vision and a mission. If your vision, mission, values, all three of them align with the strategic directions of an organization and their mandates, it means that you would be able to maximize the usage of your resources. You would be able to provide the best of the services to the entire user fraternity. Development of a competitive strategy to achieve the mission, vision, and goals. Creation of the library structure, which will deploy resources to successfully carrying out its competitive strategy. Now, when we talk about strategic management, the first and the foremost thing is your planning. Effective planning of services and systems in libraries and information centers encompasses activities directed towards developing a vision and a mission, and then setting goals, motivating individuals. When I'm talking about individuals, it is the professionals who are working with you as well as the outsiders, means your users. Appraising performance of both personnel and systems, evaluating results, developing a financial base to accomplish all of that, and then adjusting directions to account for the outcome of those activities. If you are working in a library information center which generates revenue, just like Terry, for their organization, then you have to come up with a competitive strategic model. As an analytical process, it involves assessing the future, anticipating the needs, determining a desired direction for the organization in that future, creating objectives in the context of the future, developing programs of action for such objectives, and selecting an appropriate agenda from among those alternatives that are priorities, and pursuing a detailed course of action. Factors in planning. The first and the foremost point is time frame. There are two categories of plans with respect to time: long range planning or strategic plans, and short term planning, annual or operational plans. Collecting and analyzing the data. The step includes systematic collection of data concerning the library or information center, its activities, operations, staff use, and users over a given period of time, as well as the external environment which affects the organization's want to do and the way it can do it. Levels of planning. In libraries and information centers that are planning committees or offices, and in smaller organizations, a hierarchical approach is abundant in favor of input from all levels and segments of the organization. When I'm talking about anticipating the future, planning is an effort to anticipate the future change. It can be accomplished by choosing among several possible alternatives. Planning in the past was most often accomplished as a line function, performed only by managers in a direct supervisory relationship, means one track. Now, many large libraries and information centers have developed careers of people whose primary function is planning. Officers in staff positions augment and support team-based planning efforts, sometimes acting as information sources, sometimes as catalysts, sometimes as advisors, and sometimes as devil's advocates too. Those individuals might, for example, provide factual data and propose new services. But their primary role is to coordinate the entire planning program. Information centers, like for-profit organizations, are more likely to relate a portion of their activities to a planning division, and with the knowledge management becoming such an important component of all their responsibilities, are likely to be represented at a high level in the organization, because knowledge management plays an important role in those initiatives. Flexibility. Flexibility or adaptability in meeting changing needs is the essence of good planning. Accountability is a key to the future success. Accountability requires obligation and initiative to carry out the established plans. Planning techniques. There are certain standards which are measurable, enforceable, and can be directly related to goals. They should provide guidance for actions in the present climate while being flexible enough to allow for future development. For example, standards have been developed by the American Library Association, International Federation of Library Association (IFLA), and the Special Library Association (SLA). But these standards are not plans, they are a means of defining acceptable service. Each individual library must develop its own plans based on the demands of its client, using those industry standards and as guidelines. Both human and technical factors must be considered in developing sound standards. When we are talking about strategic management, there is another component which is of utmost importance called SWOT analysis. It is a method of examining the potential strategies derived from the synthesis of organizational strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, all of them are abbreviated as SWOT, SWOT. Management by objectives, MBO, is perhaps one of the most evident examples of participative management because it involves everyone to an extent in the management process. In library and information center, where currently the users, the participants, all are part of your entire center. Engage them, involve them into different decision makings and all. It would be easy for you. So for that, clear stated objectives. If they are not clear, they should be clarified. A succession of specific objectives like benchmarks must be established to measure the progress. Delegation of specific objectives. Certain people should be responsible for accomplishing specific objectives. Freedom to act. Subordinates should be given objectives and authority and then be charged with accomplishments of those objectives. Then verifiable objectives. To achieve objectives, it is best to quantify them. If they are non-quantifiable objectives, they may relate to quantifiable ones. Clear communication. This exists only when objectives are specific, are agreed upon by all parties, are budgeted and are known by all individuals who have a reason for knowing. Shared responsibility. Team effort is the key to management by objectives. Personal accountability. Each person must be accountable for the achievement of his or her assigned objectives and improving management ability. Management is able to plan more objectively when these premises are accepted. As I have mentioned earlier, organization environment assessment is an extremely important role. Libraries are affected by many changes in education and research that had impact on the institution as a whole. Some of the important factors include change in the library outlook. It is no more a library and information center with just books, stacks, reading tables, chairs, etc. There is a lot of dynamicity, vibrancy, colorful, culture-oriented components have been added in the outlook of the library. There is a radical change in information and communication technology. Lot of communications, ICT based, are done using different kinds of media too. Changes in electronic publishing. More and more people are indulged into different kind of e-publishing. They are procuring e-resources because there is a demand from the users. Why there is a demand from the users? Because today's users or client are mobile. They're moving from place to place. Not only locally but geographically they're moving. And every resources, every your services they want to see in the mobile or the tablets which they are carrying. So if your more and more e-resources are there, it would be easy for them to access the knowledge. Changes in higher education and changes in the research environment. Lot of change in the research environment means lot of collaborative effort is taking place. Lot of collaborative subject areas where the research is taking place. So it is not people, the user fraternity wants the informations on a particular focused area. So a lot of customized information service to be provided. Strategic planning principles. What do libraries need to do to support excellence for different types of users? How the library can support divergent research needs on and off campus, including support in collaborative research. How the library can continue to facilitate and preserve developments in knowledge across the campus and in the wider scope of research and scholarship. How to participate actively in campus-wide solutions to information technology applications to support teaching and research. How the library can contribute and strengthen the life on campus in the institutions. If you are able to answer some of these questions, it means you have accomplished the beginning of the strategic planning process. Now, in the module itself, I have given a couple of action plans. Now, these action plans are dealt in detail that when you are going for a strategic planning of a particular component like expanding network-based access to collection by providing online digital resources wherever needed, or improves access to materials that are library acquired externally by providing enhanced across delivery of resources, or improves the service to the students and faculties by reducing the fragmentation, expanding service hours, and developing training programs in the evaluation and the use of information resources. Now, for each and every of these components, the strategies are going to be different and more meticulously to be gone into details. In the action plan 2, looking at the space. If you have to create space that meets the needs of the academic community, create space that meets the needs of the current and the future library operations, incorporate appropriate emerging information technologies in the library operations and space. So each and every component on each and every aspect you can see your strategic planning is involved. If these are not seen in a more meticulous way, then your library and information center cannot excel in the future. Let us take an example: strategies for collection development, like acquisition policy. What would be the qualitative collection development? Not much of year-end like pressures, no vendor patronages, user requisitions, recommendations based collection. It is more what we call it as a demand driven rather than a supply driven. consistency, user involvement. As I mentioned earlier, then involve more and more users in your strategic decision makings. It would be helpful for the development of the library, because ultimately you are being a part of the service industry. Whom you are helping? You are helping your clients. So you need to understand your client's requirement. Competitive vendor profiling, which is very important because there is an escalation in the prices and all. And resource budget allocation, because with how you can manage or procure your resources with a minimum budget. So minimum inflow, maximizing the outflow. That is where your strategies play a pragmatic role. Technology development there also plays a strategic role. A reasoned approach to technology planning would require establishing standards, norms, and methods for evaluating, purchasing, implementing, and using technology, including hardware, other equipment, software, and staff training. Identify how technology applies in satisfying their needs is therefore paramount to successful mission accomplishment. Because technology plays such an important role in information service, planning its integration is embedded in almost every aspect of strategic planning process. Strategic communication and marketing. Once a strategic plan has been developed, the plan itself can serve as an important tool for communication and marketing within the community. A comprehensive marketing plan, of course, encompasses not just the strategic plan, but because the major components of what we are here for. It is going to prove our existence have been identified in the plan. It makes sense to extensively market the goals and the objectives of the plan as a showpiece of the wide range of activities that are involved in meeting the needs of the customers and giving value to those efforts. Marketing the strategic plan presents the opportunity to move from the push mentality of persuasion to a pull mentality of identifying what is needed. A process that has been carried out in the strategic planning process. There are several case studies I have dealt in detail in the course modules. One of them I'm going to deal here in this particular video. That is on IFLA, International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions. IFLA acts as the global voice of the library and information profession by promoting high standards of provision and delivery of library information service, encouraging widespread understanding of the value good library and information services, representing the interests of its members throughout the world. If you look at their visions, the strategic points which they have culled out over the years and which they debate out almost every international IFLA conference, if you look at their visions, the strategic points which they have culled out over the years and which they debate out almost every international IFLA conference, empowering libraries to enable their user communities to have equitable access to information, which means equitable access to information is a basic right for everyone. Libraries are the organization in society that assists to exercise their right to information. IFLA builds the capacity of libraries to fulfill this function. Building the strategic capacity of IFLA and that of its members. IFLA's membership is essential in building the strategic capacity of IFLA and that of its members to strengthen the role of the libraries and library associations in the knowledge society worldwide. Transforming the profile and the standing of the profession to sustain and to strengthen the role of libraries in the knowledge society. Digital age. IFLA works continuously on transformation, the profile, and standing of the professions, representing the interests of IFLA's members and their users throughout the world. IFLA exists through and for its members and their users and acts as the global voice of libraries and library associations. So with that, I'm sure you would be able to understand the strategic planning, process, and management of library and information centers. So if you are a librarian, then the first and the foremost thing is to devise your strategic plan of action for your library and information center, which will take you to several heights in the organization. Thank you very much.